Wait, I don't.
240 is the 4 triangles. Each one of them is 60. Then you have to find the base, which is a 12 by 12 square.
So you do 10 because it's the slant height, right?
Yes. 10 is the slant. Charlie, you focused on me or no?
And then you add them.
Then you put them together. This is the 4 triangles and then the bottom. Add it together. Number 8. Sergio builds another pyramid 10 times as large. The surface area of the larger pyramid is how many times as large? People, you don't have to do anything. We've almost beat this to a pulp. The scale factor from the small one to the big one, how many times bigger is it? The dimensions are 10 times bigger. That means the scale factor is 10 times bigger. What do you do to the scale factor to find out how many times the area is bigger? You square the scale factor. So you take 10 times bigger dimensionally is 10 squared times bigger area-wise, so it is a 100 times bigger. The volume would be 1,000 times bigger. Because it is the surface, it is the scale factor cubed for volume, which is 10 times 10 times 10.
And then if it's the perimeter, then it just stays the same.
It's same as 10. Perfect. Now we're getting somewhere. That was the last one on that page, right?
Yeah.
Let's get to this here. Number 9, how long is the curve of the track from A to B if the segment from A to B is 60 meters long? This is 60, so all you're looking for is the circumference of a half circle. So it is pi, the circumference of a circle is pi times diameter, but that's a whole circle, that would be if it went all the way around. It is only half a circle, so you divide it by 2. Use 3.14 for pi, so I have to take 3.14 times the diameter of 60, all cut in half. I would then cut the diameter, cut the 60 in half and get 30, and just multiply 3.14 times that 30. 0.1214, hopefully it was 94.2. Is that not what it was?
No,
I did it wrong.
couldn't you just do pi times the radius?
Yeah, that's what I actually did here, but do you know why?
It's around the
Wait.
nearest kilometer.
What's that? Oh, to the nearest whole meter, yeah, 94. And that was the one that the book said 94.2?
The book is wrong.
Could I do pi times 0.3? Why would I do that? I would say no then. You don't have a reason for doing something, don't do it. Huh? I don't know what you're talking about. Could I do pi times 3? That's 0.3. Where does the 0.3 come from? Until you can tell me where that 0.3 comes from, I can't tell you why you would do that. Number 10 says the factory has a rush order. 2 machines can complete the order in 48 hours. How many machines are needed to complete the order in 8 hours? Now, here is what's that? Here is what you need to think about here. Okay, is this directly proportional or is it inversely proportional? Think about the question first. If 2 machines can do it in 48 hours, 2 machines could do it in 48 hours. If you have more machines, the more machines, does the amount of time going to go up or go down? So it's an inverse proportion. And when it's inverse proportion, okay, you just have to realize that when you multiply the 2 things that you're talking about, time, what is this, hours and machines, I get 96. Whatever my new numbers are, I have to get 96 when I multiply them together. In other words, if I took how many machines are needed to do it in 8 hours, that means I need to figure out what number times 8 will give me that same 96. Whenever you multiply the 2 things together, you have to get 96. That's that inverse variation thing. So basically, it's going to be 8 into 96, which is 12. Okay, you have to decide, when you're given those ratios, you have to decide whether it's directly proportional, as one goes up, the other one goes up, or inversely proportional, which means as one goes up, the other one goes down. And in this case, it was inversely proportional. The more machines, the fewer amount of time, less amount of time.
12 times 8 equals 96. 48.
You don't get why 12 times 8 is 96?
Oh, never mind.
You just divide it out, yeah. I wasn't really getting into the mathematical like that. Charles, please stop. Holly?
So if like 48 was like 24, then you could do 2 times 24, and then you
Right.
see how many.
If this was a 24, then the other two things, when you try to figure out the other two things, they would have to equal 48.
Okay.
And that's what inverse variation was, wasn't it? X times y equaled a constant. If you look at your notes, it was x times y has to equal that constant. So no matter what x, once you know what the constant is, which in this case was 96, the two numbers have to always equal 96. One machine would take you 96 hours. 2 machines would take you 48 hours. 3 machines would take you 23 hours or whatever it is, or 32 hours or whatever it is. Problem number 11, an investment grows in value at a compound rate of 10% per year. What is it after 3 years? Okay, this one's kind of a tougher one. We do a whole lot with this, but know this. This is the key word there. It is a compound. It's not a simple. If it was simple, interest equals principal times rate times time. My principal was $10,000. My rate was 10%, which I'll make a decimal right now. My time is 1. In the first year, you are going to make $1,000 of interest.
What's the last number?
That was a 1. It was 1 year. Okay. And simple interest would mean it would be really simple and you just get 3 times that because you get the same every year. But this is not, this is compound, which makes it harder. Okay, with compound interest, you have to take that amount of interest you have, put it back with what your principal started out with, and now you have $11,000. And then you have to do the whole thing over again for the second year. You have to take it principal times 0.1, because that's your interest rate, which ends up being $1,100. That's how much interest you get the second year, but you have to add that back onto what you started with, which is $12,100. And then to do the third year, you have to do the whole process again.
Where did you get 1,000 in there? Where'd you get 12,000?
Alright, here we go. In big, big letters here. Pretend this is actually you. You have $10,000, people. You put it in the bank and the bank says, I'm going to give you 10% of that back at the end of the year for you letting me use your money. So you need to find out what 10,000 is times 10%, which is, how much is that? Move the decimal back one place. You get $1,000 from the bank for letting you keep that $10,000. So in the bank, how much money do you have now? You have $11,000. That's the first year. After the first year, you end up with that. Now the second year, the bank takes your new amount of money and you have to do it all over again. I now have $11,000 that I get interest on at 10%, which means I just moved the decimal back a place. The second year, I get $1,100 in interest.
What's the third number?
The third number is always 1 for a year, because we're only talking about 1 year. And the interest rate is always 0.1 because it's 10%. So now how much do I have in the bank? Well, I have to take this. I started with this. They gave me this for keeping my money. So now I have $12,100 in the bank at the end of year number 2. The interest plus what I started with plus how much they gave me for keeping the money. If they only gave you this much back, Charlie, you lost about $10,000. Yeah, you started with this, they gave you this for letting them keep the money, you end up with this. And then with the
12,000
third year,
times 0.1.
12,100 times 0.1, which means I just moved the decimal back one place. So I get $1,210 in interest. And I have to put that back with what I started with. So my 12,100 plus my $1,210 will give me my final at the end of 3 years. I'm hopefully going to have $13,310. I hope that was the answer. If it would have just been simple interest, you would just get $1,000 every year. They don't put it back on with the principal to figure out a new rate, you just get $1,000 every year. And this would have been $1,300.
First year is what?
I hate this.
You can watch it at www.just. Caroline,
So what's the formula for that?
interest equals principal times rate times time, but you gotta do it 3 times. There is actually another formula, but I'm not sure. If you thought you were confused on this, not at the moment.
Just, does the bank's interest rate, is that compound?
The bank's
Like,
interest
if you put money in, is it like compound interest?
Yeah.
For the year?
usually is.
What's the interest first now?
Unfortunately, it's not never 10%, so don't think
Is
we do
it
it. Right now, it's like
better?
1%.
Wait, is it better to use simple?
No, compound interest.
Wait, can we see?
Compound interest is always better when they're giving you the interest. Now, credit cards also use kind of like compound interest. That's bad for you because they do that also on a monthly basis.
Wait, can we see the formula?
Yeah.
Actually,
It's already-
so that's just like, wait, I want the
How?
So the
First
first
year
year was
was
10,000.
Second year you had $11,000. Third year you had, beginning of the third year you had this, and at the end of the third year you had that. If we did a fourth year, you'd have to take this times 1.
So you went from 10,000 to 11,000 to 12,000.
For 13,310 at the end of the third year.
No, you said it's confusing.
How did you go from?
Right, we can't spend a lot of time on this one. Number 12. 10 slips of paper numbered 1 through 10. Do I need to do that one?
No.
Okay, number
Yes, I got it wrong.
10 slips numbered 1 through 10. 2 slips are drawn. What's the probability that both numbers are less than 4? Less than 4, less than 4. Are they put back in or not?
Without one.
So if you draw yourself the picture of this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, how many numbers are less than 4, Josh?
3.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3. So 3/10 is my probability on the first one, right? But if I take one out and don't put it back, there's only 2 left. That means, and don't forget, not only are there only 2 numbers left, but there's only 9 numbers left in the bag. So you multiply these together, you end up with 6 over 90, but you could cross cancel. 1 over 15 is what I get. When you do it, 6 over 90 reduces to 1 over
Wait. So the probability is not.
Just do the math and reduce it.
How did you, wait, no, not that, how did you get the 3/10 exactly again?
There are 1, 2, 3 numbers that were less than 4 in the bag. 3 out of the 10 numbers were less than 4. Then I took one out, now there's only 2 out of 9 left.
So the answer is 150.
Number 13. A 2-liter bottle of water has a mass of about how many kilograms? I believe the gist is this. You might want to write this down. 1 liter equals 1 kilogram. So if it's 2 liters, it's 2 kilograms. If it's a half a liter, it's a half a kilogram. They are the same. A pint's a pound the world around. Do that. If they ask you that question. Number 14. Diameter of the circle is 10 units. Length of the side is 5 units. What's the probability that an object falls within the circle also lands in the square? In other words, they want the area of the square over the area of the circle. That's the probability. Because the circle is the whole thing. The square is what you want. So what is the area of a square? 5 times 5, correct? What does it say? Express it in terms of pi, that's good.
Yes.
What's the area of a circle? It's pi times radius times radius. What is the radius? Diameter was 10, so the radius is, so on the bottom you have 5 times pi. Pi times radius. What happens to all the 5s? They can cross off, but please be careful, children. Okay, if everything crosses off and the pi was on top, it would be just pi. But the pi started out on the bottom of the fraction, which means it needs to stay on the bottom of the fraction, which means if everything crosses off, you're left with a 1 up there. Hence the reason is 1 over pi. Which means you have about a 1/3 chance when you throw that in there of that thing landing in the square. You've got a 2/3 chance of it landing not in the square if you throw something in there. Number 15, what's an expression for the perimeter of this? Well, that should be easy because perimeter is just adding all the sides. So you just do 2x minus 3 plus 2x minus 3, it's the other side there, plus x plus 1 plus x plus 1. That's all 4 sides added together. You just add like terms. 2x's plus 2x's plus 1x plus 1x gives me a total of 6x's. Minus 3 plus 1 gives me a negative 6 plus 2 minus 4. That one should not have been difficult at all. It's always easier when I do it on the board, let me say. A rectangle has those vertices. What's the area of it? Oh boy. Do I really have to do this one? Come on, kids.
It's just a Pythagorean theorem.
2, 0, 1, 2, 0, negative 1, 3, negative 1, 1, 2, 3, negative 3, 1, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, 1, and 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. What did I do wrong? Negative 3, 1. Negative 3, 1. Negative 1, 3.
Yeah, no, that's negative.
Negative 1, 3. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now you've got me all flustered. Oh, it's I am. It all started when my camera wouldn't work.
Stupid camera.
Let's try that again. Slow and steady wins the race. 0, negative 2. Why didn't somebody say I missed that one? 2, 0. Negative 1, 3. And negative 3, 1. So it told you that this was a rectangle, I believe. Did it not? Yes. And it wants to know what the area of it is. Well, in order to find the area, you've got to find out what both of these sides are. And that's not easy to do because you can't just count the squares. You're going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem. Why the Pythagorean theorem? Because you can make nice little rectangles out of these things like this. Correct? And what is the two sides of this triangle? 2 and 2. So it is, Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 2 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared. So 4 plus 4 equals c squared. So 8 equals c squared. So c equals the square root of 8. So c equals 2 times the square root of 2. That's what this side is.
I actually don't have to square.
You don't have to write down everything, just know kind of what I'm talking about. Now, what's the deal with this one here? So if I want this, I need to make a triangle out of with this side here, so it is this, which I believe looks like a 3 by 3 triangle. So I do the same thing with the 3's. 3 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. 9 plus 9 equals c squared. 18 equals c squared. C equals the square root of 18. 3 times 3, it's 3 times the square root of 2. Take my word for it. So the area, children, is 2 times the square root of 2 times 3 times the square root of 2. And what do you get if you multiply 2 times 3?
6 square root of 2.
No. What do you get if you multiply the square root of 2 times the square root of 2? Just a normal 2. 6 times 2 is 12 for the area of that shape. Do not get that confused with adding. Three
Where's the
square roots
second
of two.
triangle?
Wouldn't the twos cross
What's that?
off?
The second triangle, the bigger one?
What about it?
I have no clue how I got that one.
It is right here.
I know I played for it.
3 high, 3 wide. Of the last, we got 5 minutes, which one do you want to do the last?
7, 8, and 9,
17, no, 18.
18. 3x, this is distributive property, plus 2x minus 2. Usually people go wrong there. Equals x plus 10. First step is to get rid of the parentheses. Second step would be to do what? Alex Ballmer?
Combine.
Simplify each side of the equation. In other words, as the cow said, put what you can together here. 3x and 2x is 5x. And I can't put anything over there. Now once I simplify each side, I move stuff by adding and subtracting it over. I move this x over by subtracting it over. 5x minus x is 4x. Add 2 over there. 4x equals 12. So x has to equal 3. I'm hoping you got FOIL down for this. First term is x squared. Outside term is 5x. Inside term is 5x. Put those together, you get the 10x. And then the last terms, 5 times 5 is 25. Put the 2 last terms. What is 20?
Wait.
Wait.
It's 2
What?
square root of 8 times 10. Times square root of 10.
Times the square root of 10? Times the square root of 10? A bunch of different ways you could do this, but you could multiply both of these together right away and then simplify, or you could simplify each one and then multiply. It doesn't really matter. You multiply this together, you're going to get 2 times the square root of 80. But you can't leave the square root of 80 because the square root of 80 can be broken down into the square root of 8 times the square root of 10. The square root of 8 is 3 square roots of 2. Square root of 10 is the square root of 2 times the square root of 5. Yes, you could do it a bunch of different ways. I said that already.
Oh.
These two give you a normal 2. These two give you a normal 2. Square root of 5 doesn't cross off, so it stays. 2 times 2 times the other 2 that was out there gives you 8 square roots of 5.
Wait, what about the other square roots you got?
What other square roots?
Or no, just that, no.
This one? I multiplied it by, when I meant 2 times 2 is 4 times that, and the other 2 is 8.
And then once you get the, wait, so after you combine the two,
Normal 2, normal 2.
and then what?
2 times 2, all the normal 2's give you 8. The 5 didn't plug you up with anybody, so it stays.
I thought you guys were.
2 times 2 is 4, but there's another 2 out here. That's not out there. Taylor?
Can you go back to number 18?
Can you tell me what's on number 18 I'm going back to? What about it?
One part.
What about it? This part? What don't you get?
You're something with the X's going on, so wait.
Where's my eraser?
Hold on.
What? Taylor. You understand distributive property? 3x stays, 2x, 2 times x, and a 2 times the negative 1. Right? 2 times x, 2 times negative 1.
Yeah.
And that equals x plus 10. I got rid of my parentheses. Next thing I look and see, on each side, what can I put together? Well, I can put together this 3x and the 2x to give me 5x's. Once I simplify and put everything together, now I move stuff from one side to the other, so I get x by itself and numbers by itself, so I need to move this x over here, I do that by subtracting it, because it was added, 5x minus x is 4x. Move this 2 over there by doing its opposite, which is adding 2. So now 4x equals 12, and then I just divide by 4, which is divide. Because that's the number in front of the x, Charles. I divided